All right, guys, we got a good show for you today. Today we have Mason Miller, he's a top prospect for the Oakland A's. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
So are you in Arizona right now at the spring training site, or what's your plan? And are you there going to play some ACL, or are you going to single A soon?
So we had spring training through March, and actually affiliated games started. I unfortunately went down with an injury. I have a strain in my rotator cuff right now, so I'm here rehabbing that for a couple more months probably. So I'm going to be here for the foreseeable future, but it's all good. I'm working on getting back, and then once I get started throwing, then whether it's here or at any of the affiliates, I'll just get my work in whenever I'm able to.
Yeah. So what's the rehab look like for you? What's a typical day right now?
Yeah, so I'm progressing towards throwing right now. So a lot of it was taking time off and just letting the shoulder heal. I got a PRP injection in my shoulder, which is like a plasma injection to facilitate stronger healing. So hopefully when I get an MRI in a couple weeks here, it'll be good news and I'll be able to start throwing again. But right now, day to day is just getting into strengthening the shoulder again. For a while, it was just mobility. But I have my range of motion back. I'm starting to strengthen it. So I'm going for about 4 or 5 hours a day and spend some time in the weight room, spend some time in the training room. There's a bunch of other guys here rehabbing different injuries. So it's not ideal for any of us, but we're trying to learn something and get something out of this experience right now.
Yeah, no, it's awesome that it sounds like you guys are all getting back to it and you'll be good in the future. So I live in Jupiter, Florida, which is right where the Marlins and the Cardinals have spring training, and they have their rookie ball league. So I had the privilege and go and meet a lot of the guys in rookie ball and see what their day-to-day life was like there. What was playing rookie ball like for you last fall? And
really, it's just an introduction, man. But it's the biggest adjustment from college, really, is just, the people who you're on a team with. In college, you have a lot of guys that are kind of going through the same thing, classes, similar ages, all that stuff. Once you get to pro ball, there's a lot of different guys from different parts of the world, speaking different languages, different ages. During the AZL, there's a lot of younger guys, usually from the DR or, places out of the country. So they come, and the AZL is their first stop. A handful of our draft guys stayed there, and a couple of them went on for affiliates for short little stints last year. But really, it's just getting your innings if you're a pitcher, getting your at bats if you're a hitter, and learning with the coaches that are there with you.
Yeah. So your path to the professional ranks is truly inspirational. You battled type 1 diabetes in 2018. You're diagnosed, correct? Is that
correct? Yeah.
You were weighing 150 pounds. How'd you transform your body to get? I saw you got up to 220. How'd you do that?
It's been a lifelong progress, I guess. I made the choice in college that I was going to start trying to eat right and put on weight. That was before I was diagnosed. So really, once I was diagnosed, I was able to start everything that I had been working for. I was able to start, actually seeing some improvement. Once you start seeing improvement after wanting it for so long, it's extra motivation for you. Yeah. So, getting healthy and getting everything figured out from a health standpoint was the key. And then after that, it's hard work, just like everybody else, lots of practice, lots of training in the weight room, the way you eat, the way you take care of your body, all that stuff. I put a big emphasis on compound lifting, squats, deadlifts, rows, stuff like that to add muscle mass. And, now that I have built out my frame a bit, it's, a little easier to fine tune the smaller stuff without seeing only small gains, I guess, weight wise. I think weight was my first goal, and everything else was second. And it just happened that, with the weight came the added velocity, came, the added durability, up till now. So it's really, it's a grind, whatever you're doing, whatever sport you're playing, every athlete knows that. So.
Yeah, that's what my whole summer is. This summer is gaining weight because I've been able to start as a freshman. The thing is, I play all these upperclassmen. They're all just bigger than me, and that's something I've noticed. It's such a big thing, and it's something I didn't put as much emphasis in, but it's what you got to do.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of those guys that you're facing that are older guys were probably in your shoes too. So
Yeah.
college is kind of interesting because that wheel kind of comes around and goes around in a couple years. You'll be that older guy playing against somebody like yourself now.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I mean, they take things from those matches just like you do, and
Yeah.
see what you need to get better at and see where you can improve. So it's a cool cycle.
Yeah.
That's why I love sports.
Yeah, no, it's the best. I got to ask a little bit about your time. You were at Waynesburg before you went to Gardner Webb. What was your experience there like?
Yeah, so school was really my first priority when I was at Waynesburg. It's a Division III school. Baseball was always something I wanted to do really for fun. I didn't want to have to, put that and school as like the same level, because I think a lot of people get distracted in that through their college journey, especially at a higher level. And I saw that a little bit last year, but it's just a different mentality. But I was fortunate to have a good group of guys to learn from when I was there. We weren't like the most talented team. Went from pretty non-competitive my first 2 years to we were competitive my junior year, and then I think we would have been competitive my senior year before the COVID shutdown. But it was good, man. I mean, there's obviously a level of separation between the different levels of college sports, but a lot of it is physical. You see Division I athletes run around, and they have these great gifts: height, weight, strength, speed, all these different things. But I think it gets lost that guys at lower levels can still play, and playing college sports at any level is an impressive achievement. And where they might lack in certain attributes, they make up for it with their mentality, or they're good at something, obviously, if they're playing college sports. So it's just a different dynamic, and I think it's underappreciated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump ahead. That was one of my questions. Do you think there's like a big difference between D3 like baseball and D1 baseball, or not really?
I mean, there's a undeniable difference as far as who's coming in each year. I think you can see a guy at Division III that comes in as a freshman and maybe isn't the best player, like myself. I mean, I had a 7 ERA my first 2 years. Part of that was related to my health, but for the sake of an argument, a guy can turn into a really solid player by the time he's ready to leave there. So I think it's just a lot of investing in your program. You're not going to get these, big transfers each year. And COVID really showed that too. A lot of these big schools were getting transfers. They were getting, guys that put on a lot of weight and were just different people after the COVID shutdown and the COVID season. So yeah, I think it created a really unique scenario in college. We had guys that were 24 last year and guys that were 18 coming out of high school. And I'm sure it was frustrating for the freshmen that came in there, expecting to be able to compete for a spot at least. Yeah. And really from the get-go, it's like, listen, we got these older guys that have played for 4 or 5 years in college, and this really isn't going to be your year. You kind of just got to embrace that and figure out ways that you can get better and prepare yourself for the future. And some people took that to heart. They're starting this year, for my team at least. I'm sure that's the case other places too. But plenty of people took that like they sold out and just left. And understandable. I mean, I'm sure that's frustrating, especially with the talent some of those kids have. But I think it's overlooked too how people value each different part of the team and the role that they can play. If some people if they're not on the field, or they're not competing or physically in the game, they kind of lose the edge that got them there. And really, if they're bringing that edge to practice and they're forcing the guy in front of them to play better, practice harder, and not take things for granted, I think that helps the overall team. And it's really hard to do that. But, I think being that I was in that situation at one point in my career, I feel like I can say that and, mean it, no matter who I'm talking to. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I've seen even like at the start of the year, I was not supposed to play. We had guys transfer. You never know people's situation. You guys transfer, injuries, and you go from like one moment, anyone could go from one moment not playing, and then next moment they could be, starting. It's just, you always got to be ready, I guess. So I have to ask. So, you talked about like your sophomore year, you had like a 7.16 ERA. and then, obviously it was at the D3 level. Did you think like being there at the university and going through some struggles like that was like a really like a secret blessing in disguise?
Sure. Yeah, I don't look back at anything along my my path in college and regret it. Um, I had a really standout junior year, so I could have left after that and pursued baseball, but it really was still like I was able to focus on me there, and it wasn't going to be driven to be a part of a program. I guess like I could focus on me while still being part of a competitive team. Um, but yeah, it's hard, man. You look
Yeah.
back and you think about what ifs, no matter who you are, even if you
Yeah.
say you don't, definitely do.
Yeah.
But I think being able to say that things turned out pretty well. Um, I'm fortunate that my experience was the way it was. I think a lot of people may have gotten the short end of the stick from COVID, from whatever team they're on, things like that. It's easy to sit there and blame that after the fact, depending on what your aspirations are. But I think it's empowering to be able to look back and say, I did what I could in the situation I had. If things were different, maybe things turned out differently, but they happened the way they did for a reason. So being able to embrace that, I think, is empowering for the individual.
Yeah. So I'm interested, how did Gardner Webb get on like your radar as a place to transfer when you decided to like, play a fifth year?
Yeah, so the NCAA announced like everybody was going to get a year eligibility back, and everything kind of happened pretty fast after that. One of my high school coaches had a relationship with Coach Chester, who was the head coach last year, is still at Gardner Webb. So that was a big like foot in the door, I guess. And then really it was just selling the program, selling what my role would be.
Mhm.
And I mean, I had a couple higher offers from more competitive teams, but I wasn't sure what that change of pace from D3 to D1 was going to look like. Knowing I only had 1 year, I didn't really want to back myself into a corner that I couldn't really fight my way out of. So going back to embracing, the way things were, it's easy for me to say, I could have went to a big school or a more competitive program and pitched like into the college playoffs, things like that. Like, of course, I think about that, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I put myself on a platform that I was able to showcase my abilities, and evidently things worked out incredibly well for me. So I'm definitely not remorseful in any of the decisions I made.
Yeah, no. So you had a fantastic season last year. What do you think like contributed to like such an easy transition? I think it goes underrated to say, transferring schools with the different programs, a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd attribute, the team. I had a lot of great older guys that we played like we're on the field together. I have good relationships with some of the younger guys too, but really that core group of older guys, there was a lot of new faces, a lot of people that came from different schools, and we was fortunate that we just kind of gelled in the fall. I competed well in the fall against my team, and I knew we were going to be pretty decent. So I think that was a good confidence boost for me. And I'd put the work in through the lockdown and everything, so I knew like it wasn't going to be because I wasn't prepared. Could have went there and maybe been really outmatched, but I learned quickly in the fall that wasn't going to be the case. And then once you get on the field in the spring after competing with your teammates all fall, and having them behind you, it's just a awesome feeling. So got out to a hot start and continued that throughout the season.
Yeah. So I got to ask, what was it like, getting drafted, and did you expect to get drafted as high as you did, or what was like the draft process like?
It was incredible. Obviously, very excited, very exciting. It was almost like a sense of relief once it was over.
Yeah.
Because spent the fall and the spring talking to teams, talking to scouts, talking to coordinators, and really at the end of the day, like I don't really have any control over what team I go to.
Yeah.
So for a while, it was like the wow factor, like this is so cool. And then after a while, it's like, man, like I don't even know what I'm doing. Like these guys are going to be the ones that are going to pick me. So it's just going to be what it's going to be. And I went out, competed, and I was like, I knew I did whatever I could to improve where I'm going to go in the draft. And being an older guy, I think that was the biggest question mark.
Yeah.
Really wasn't surrounding like what I could do on the field.
Mhm.
So obviously the A's thought highly enough of me to take me as early as they did. I was hoping that I would go on that second day for sure. So between 2 and 10.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate that, they took me as high as they did. And I think that says a lot about, what they see in me in these next couple of years. So that's very, very good feeling to have.
Yeah. So I have to ask, are you going to try or be a starting pitcher, or are you going to be a reliever? You know that yet?
Yeah, for now, like this spring, I was slated to start. So I've been a starter for the past couple of years. That's where I feel most comfortable. So, as long as they let me pursue that, I'm going to try my best to be a starter. I think in the back of my head, in the back of, people making that decision, the organizations, that, I have, it's easy to go from starting to bullpen. It's a lot harder to go from the bullpen to being a starter. So I think we have that in the back pocket if things don't work out as a starter or durability wise or anything like that. But, for now, we're going to pursue starting as long as we can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Final two questions. So what's your favorite pitch to throw?
I mean, I throw a really good fastball. So it's hard not to say fastball, but I like throwing my slider a lot, seeing a hitter like take a step back or buckle a little bit. Like that's just a way better feeling than any fastball could ever give you. So I'll go with slider.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I have one other one I was thinking about. So you've gone through a lot of like the recruiting process. What would be like one piece of advice you give to like a high school guy? Might not be like a star, but just really wants to play like high school baseball down the line. What advice would you be to help him get recruited?
Like a high school player going to play college?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you have to sit down and, really be honest with yourself. And that's hard to do sometimes with, the way parents are, the way coaches are in high school and travel and AAU and things like that. You have to be honest with yourself. Like if you really believe in your talents and you want to, I don't want to say overshoot because it's important to be confident in yourself, but your talents, kind of where you slot in coming out of high school, comparatively across the board. I don't know how other sports are, but baseball, it's like, if you're a pitcher and you throw a certain velocity on your fastball, it's like, okay, you'd be a good fit here probably.
Yeah.
That's not a guarantee that, you'll get to play. It's not a guarantee that you'll get time on the field. You'll get time from the coaches, even if you're not playing. So like I went the Division III route and I had the option to go the Division II route out of high school. And really what it came down to for me was I wanted to play. I didn't want to go to college and, fight for 2 years just to get a chance.
Yeah.
And I kind of held that same sentiment when I chose Gardner Webb over some of the more prestigious schools. I wanted to be on the field. And if I struggled, I wanted to know that I wasn't going to lose my spot. Like I have the chance to figure things out, the chance to right the ship and, get back to where I needed to be. So I'd say, what are your priorities? If your priority is to play at a big name school that you can look back and say, I was on that team, then, shoot for the stars, man. But, if you're like me and you just want to play, you love the game. Like, I think that's the most important thing for an athlete, especially in college, because it's a grind, especially even compared to high school. It's way more time consuming, way more individualistic. It's not like we have team practice, team lift. Like you got to put the work on your own when you're home for break, when you're home for the summer, things like that. So you're going to be able to do that no matter what school you go to. Some programs will enable you to do better. So I think that's what you got to look for when you go visit schools and talk to coaches. Like, what is their emphasis on? Is it on growing players, when they get there? Or is it focused on their stars? Maybe you have to go to a game, but I think a keen person's able to figure that out pretty quickly. What different coaches are like, what different teams are like, things like that. So I think going into the process with an open mind is good, but you also have to have, what are your goals? What's your honest opinion of yourself and what you see in your next 4 years? So,
yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. Final question, we always finish off with it. When your baseball career is over down the line, how do you want people to remember yourself?
It's a hard one, man, because, every time you get out of high school and you go to college, you're like, it's a new chapter. You're leaving everything in the past. And, I just turned the page to pro ball.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I didn't get to go out with the affiliate teams quite yet. So, I mean, I've started the journey, but I feel like I haven't started it fully yet. But I don't really want to be, remembered for the stuff I did on the field, but more like the person I am off the field and in different parts of my life. So at the end of the day, there's a lot more to life than sport. So building your life around a sport sometimes, leaves you to some danger once you finish college and that sport leaves. And I think a lot of people struggle with finding a sense of identity after that. So I think if I could tell myself in the future, it would just be to, have a sense of identity when you walk off the field for the last time, something off the field that, you can put your heart and soul into. Cause, as an athlete, especially like a high level athlete, like you put your heart and soul into whatever sport you're playing for your whole life. And then, all of a sudden it's over and you don't really know what to do with yourself. So I don't want to ever be surprised by that, I guess.
Yeah, no, well, Mason, I appreciate you coming on, man. It means a lot. Just trying to give athletes like yourself a voice. It's awesome. And I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate you having me on.